When you're dealing with toxic people, one of the first traps you'll notice is how quickly they try to pull you into their storm. They provoke, they push, they test your patience, and they want you to react. That's the game, because the moment you snap, yell, or match their chaos, they gain control of the situation. They know you're no longer thinking clearly, you're reacting emotionally. And once your emotions take the driver's seat, they've got the power to steer the interaction wherever they want. Staying calm isn't weakness, it's actually the strongest defense you can hold in that moment. Think of it this way: toxic people throw emotional bait, like hooks in the water. They might say something offensive, passive-aggressive, or flat-out disrespectful. That's the hook. The second you take the bait, argue back, raise your voice, or get defensive, you're caught. But if you recognize the bait and refuse to bite, the hook just sits there powerless. Calm is you looking at that bait and saying, "Not today." It's you knowing their behavior says more about them than it does about you. The bait only works if you let it. Staying calm doesn't mean you don't feel the emotions rising inside you. You'll feel frustration, you'll feel the urge to clap back, and you'll feel that heat in your chest when someone crosses a line. But calm is about mastering your response, not denying your feelings. It's taking a breath before reacting. It's reminding yourself, I'm not going to let this person control me. And the truth is, that pause, just a few seconds of breathing, grounding, or holding back, is enough to break the cycle and keep you in charge of yourself. Now, toxic people often thrive on escalation. They'll keep pushing until you explode, because that's when they feel validated. Your explosion makes them the victim, and suddenly you're the problem. But when you don't rise to their level, when you stay steady, they lose that leverage. It frustrates them because they can't twist the narrative in their favor. You're not giving them fuel for their fire. Instead, you're showing them that their chaos has no impact on your peace, and that alone shifts the power dynamic completely. Picture this: someone is yelling at you, trying to bait you into a fight. Most people instinctively yell back. It's a natural reaction. But imagine responding with steady eye contact, a calm tone, and measured words. Not only does it diffuse their momentum, but it also unsettles them. They expect chaos. You deliver composure. They expect shouting. You deliver stillness. In that gap between their energy and your response, you're teaching them something very clear. I won't play your game. That's where calm becomes your shield. The smartest way to stay calm in these situations is to prepare for them. You know who the toxic people are in your life. You know the patterns, the triggers, the buttons they like to push. Preparation means deciding ahead of time how you will respond. Maybe it's using a mental phrase like, "Don't bite the bait." Maybe it's taking a slow breath before you speak. Maybe it's choosing to walk away instead of arguing. Calm doesn't come by accident. It's intentional. And the more you practice, the stronger it becomes. And here's the real benefit of staying calm. It protects your peace long after the interaction is over. When you match someone's chaos, you carry it with you for hours or even days, replaying the argument, regretting what you said, wishing you handled it differently. But when you stay calm, you walk away clean. You don't waste mental energy on the toxic exchange because you never gave them that control to begin with. Calm isn't just about winning in the moment, it's about winning long after the moment has passed. Toxic people don't like boundaries because boundaries expose the limits of their control. When you set a boundary, you're saying, this is what I will accept and this is what I won't. That clarity removes their ability to manipulate the situation. Most of the time, they thrive in gray areas where expectations are fuzzy because that's where they can push, guilt, or twist your words. The moment you draw a line, you take away that advantage. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about teaching people how to treat you. One of the biggest mistakes people make with boundaries is believing they have to be explained or defended. You don't. A boundary is not an argument. It's a statement. The more you justify it, the more room you give someone to debate it, and toxic people love debates. Instead, boundaries work best when they're clear, calm, and consistent. For example, if someone constantly interrupts your time with endless texts or calls, your boundary might be, I'll respond when I'm available. Short, clear, no over-explaining, no apologies. No, consistency is what makes boundaries strong. If you set a boundary once but let it slide the next time, you've taught them that pushing harder eventually gets results. That's why toxic people often test boundaries. They want to see if you'll actually enforce them. The first pushback is normal, but your response is everything. If you fold, the boundary disappears. If you stand firm without hostility, they realize that line isn't moving. Your calm consistency does more to teach respect than any lecture could. It's also important to recognize that boundaries are for you, not for them. You can't control whether someone respects the line you've drawn, but you can control what you do when they cross it. If your boundary is, I won't stay in conversations where I'm insulted, then the moment the insults start, you exit the conversation. No arguments, no explanations, just action. That action reinforces your boundary more powerfully than any words could. You're training them with your behavior, not your speeches. Another trap to avoid is feeling guilty for setting boundaries. Toxic people will often label you as selfish, cold, or difficult when you stop allowing their behavior. That's manipulation. Guilt is the tool they use to keep you compliant. But the truth is, boundaries are the opposite of selfish. They protect your energy so you can show up healthier in every area of your life. When you stop overextending for toxic people, you have more patience and kindness for those who truly deserve it. Boundaries multiply respect where it belongs. Sometimes boundaries are about physical space, like limiting visits or creating distance in your environment. Other times, they're emotional boundaries, like deciding you won't share personal information with someone who weaponizes it against you. Boundaries can even be time-based, like deciding not to spend more than a set amount of time with someone who drains you. The form doesn't matter, the principle does. You're drawing lines that protect your peace, your time, and your values, and sticking to them no matter how someone reacts. And the most empowering part of boundaries is how they shift the balance of control back to you. Toxic people want you in constant reaction mode, explaining, defending, and giving in. Boundaries pull you out of that cycle. Instead of reacting to their behavior, you're setting the rules for your own. You're saying, here's how I operate, and here's what happens if that's ignored. No raised voice, no chaos, just calm direction. And once you realize that boundaries aren't about controlling them, they're about controlling you, you stop giving away your power in every interaction. One of the smartest ways to deal with toxic people is by limiting how much of your energy and emotions you give them. Toxic people thrive on emotional reactions. They feed off your frustration, your anger, and even your guilt. The more you give them, the stronger their hold on you becomes. It's almost like they have a remote control, and every time you react, you're handing them the batteries. The less you invest, the less control they have, and the more freedom you gain over your own state of mind. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people altogether. It means you recognize who has earned the right to your emotions and who hasn't. When someone constantly drains you, disrespects your boundaries, or twists your words, they haven't earned that access. Limiting emotional investment is simply you deciding, I don't have to pour myself out for someone who only takes and never gives. It's an act of self-protection, not coldness. You can still be polite, respectful, and civil without being emotionally hooked. Here's the truth. Emotional investment is what makes toxic people's strategies work. If they guilt trip you, they want you to feel bad, so you'll cave in. If they insult you, they want you to get angry so they can play the victim. If they complain endlessly, they want you to get sucked into solving their problems for them. But when you stop attaching your emotions to their behavior, the cycle breaks. You can acknowledge what they say without internalizing it. You can hear their words without carrying them home with you. Think about it like a bank account. Every time you pour your anger, frustration, or guilt into a toxic person, you're making deposits into an account that doesn't benefit you. But when you limit your emotional investment, you stop funding something that drains you. Instead, you save that emotional energy for the people and places where it actually matters. Your family, your friends, your goals, your peace. It's about budgeting your emotions wisely because not everyone deserves full access to your account. One way to practice this is by using emotional detachment techniques. When someone comes at you with negativity, instead of immediately reacting, step back mentally and observe. Almost like you're watching a scene in a movie. Ask yourself, if I don't react, what happens? Or what do I gain if I give this my energy? That pause creates distance between their behavior and your emotions. It keeps you from being pulled into the drama, and it reminds you that you always have a choice. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Another helpful approach is to stick to facts instead of feelings when dealing with toxic people. For example, if a coworker constantly criticizes you unfairly, instead of defending yourself emotionally, respond with something neutral like, "I'll take that into consideration." It doesn't mean you agree, it means you're not handing them your emotional energy. When you respond with facts, short statements, or even silence, you protect yourself from being dragged into an emotional tug of war. That's where you maintain your peace and your power. The most important thing to remember about limiting emotional investment is that it's not about shutting down who you are. It's about being intentional with where you place your heart. You get to decide who gets the best of you and who doesn't. You get to decide if someone's behavior is worth your peace of mind. And once you truly see that not everyone deserves your emotional investment, you begin to walk lighter, carry less stress, and take back control of your energy in every interaction. Toxic people thrive on back and forth conversations because every extra word you give them is fuel for their fire. The longer you explain, defend, or argue, the more opportunities they have to twist your words or pull you deeper into their chaos. That's why short, neutral responses are so powerful. They take away the drama without escalating the situation. Instead of meeting negativity with long speeches, you give simple phrases that close the door calmly. The less you feed into their energy, the less control they have over you. Short responses work because they don't create new openings. Think about when someone tries to provoke you with criticism. If you launch into a detailed explanation, they pick apart every sentence. But if you say, "Noted," or "I hear you," there's nothing to attack. You've acknowledged their words without giving them ammunition. Neutral responses don't validate their behavior, but they also don't give them the reaction they're fishing for. It's like putting a stop sign in the middle of their road. One of the best things about short responses is how they help you stay in control of your own emotions. When you limit your words, you naturally limit how much emotion you're investing. Instead of reacting impulsively, you're choosing deliberate calm. This keeps you from getting dragged into their story or losing your composure. A toxic person might try to bait you into an argument, but when your replies are steady and minimal, you're showing them that their tactics don't work. Your calm presence becomes the loudest statement in the room. Neutral responses also give you time to think. When you don't rush to fill the silence with explanations, you create space for yourself to process the moment. Toxic people often push for quick emotional reactions because that's where they gain control. But when you respond slowly and with fewer words, you take back the pace of the interaction. You're no longer reacting on their terms, you're leading with intention. That shift in pace can completely disarm someone who's trying to corner you into a heated exchange. Examples of short, neutral responses could be as simple as, "Understood. I'll think about it. Let's move forward," or even just, "Okay." These responses aren't sarcastic or dismissive. They're steady. They acknowledge the interaction without giving it momentum. The goal is not to sound cold, but to stay calm and professional. Whether you're talking to a coworker, a relative, or anyone else, these small phrases act as shields. They keep you from being dragged into debates you don't owe anyone. It's also worth remembering that silence itself can be a powerful response. You don't always have to say something back. Sometimes the smartest answer is no answer at all. When a toxic person realizes their words can't pull you in, they lose interest. Silence, when used with confidence, is not weakness, it's control. It shows that you don't have to waste energy on someone who isn't respecting your time or your peace. And in many cases, silence says more than words ever could. Short, neutral responses may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to over-explaining or defending yourself. But over time, they become natural. They help you conserve energy, avoid unnecessary conflict, and hold firm boundaries without constant battles. The beauty of this approach is that it's simple, repeatable, and effective in almost every toxic situation. By saying less, you protect your peace, and by staying neutral, you make it clear that you won't be pulled into someone else's storm. Detaching with dignity means stepping back from toxic people without hostility, guilt, or drama. It's about choosing your peace over their chaos and doing it in a way that protects your integrity. Some people think detachment has to look cold or aggressive, but it doesn't. True detachment is quiet strength. It's saying, I won't let your behavior control me, and I don't have to fight you to prove it. When you detach, you're not rejecting the person. You're refusing to participate in the toxicity. The key to dignified detachment is remembering that you don't owe toxic people access to every part of your life. Just because someone is family, a coworker, or someone you've known for years doesn't mean they get unlimited access to your time, energy, or emotions. Relationships are a privilege, not an entitlement. When someone consistently shows that they don't respect that privilege, you're within your right to limit their role in your life. Detachment allows you to take control of that access without unnecessary conflict. Sometimes detachment looks like reducing how much time you spend with someone. Instead of being available for every call, every conversation, or every favor, you create space. You respond less often, keep interactions shorter, and stop volunteering yourself to be drained. Other times, detachment is emotional. You can be physically present but emotionally unavailable for their drama. You listen without absorbing, you acknowledge without engaging, and you refuse to carry their negativity home with you. Both forms of detachment are equally powerful. Detaching with dignity doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about your well-being enough not to hand it over to someone who misuses it. Many toxic people try to frame distance as cruelty, but in reality, it's protection. You can love someone and still decide that their behavior is too harmful to be around constantly. You can respect someone's role in your life while limiting how deeply they affect you. It's not about punishing them. It's about preserving yourself. What makes detachment with dignity is the way you do it. You don't have to announce it, argue about it, or explain it. You don't have to make a scene or prove a point. Dignified detachment is quiet. It's in your actions, not your words. You show it by not engaging in every fight, not defending yourself endlessly, and not chasing validation from someone who thrives on taking it away. Silence, consistency, and self-control are the tools of dignified detachment. Another part of detaching with dignity is removing guilt from the process. Toxic people will often accuse you of being selfish, disloyal, or heartless when you create distance. That's their way of pulling you back into the cycle. But guilt is not a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you're breaking their pattern. Detachment isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. You're not shutting them out of humanity. You're shutting them out of the space where they can harm you. That distinction is what allows you to detach without shame. When you detach with dignity, you regain the ability to live on your terms. Toxic people no longer get to dictate your mood, control your time, or drain your energy. You choose when to engage, how to engage, and how much of yourself you give. That freedom doesn't just protect you in the moment, it carries into every part of your life. You think clearer, feel lighter, and have more room to invest in relationships that actually support you. Detachment becomes less about losing someone and more about finally keeping yourself.